Hi, and in today's Microsoft Word tutorial, I'm going to show you how to display grid lines and how to customize them in Word. This will enable you to insert any kind of drawing or graphic and make sure everything's perfectly lined up. It will snap to the grid lines, so you haven't got to keep moving everything around and checking the alignment of everything on your page. So the first thing we need to do is to go up to the Layout tab here and then along to Alignment. Click on the drop down and go down to View Grid Lines. Now, as a default, generally Word will insert this grid here, but as you can see, they're not squares, so if you wanted squares, we'd need to adjust them, and they don't fit perfectly to our page. So if I wanted to put something in the centre, I know it wasn't quite in the centre because this square here is only sort of half a rectangle. So we need to correct it. So make sure you're on the Layout tab again. Go along to Alignment, click on the drop down and select Grid Settings. So if you want your grids to be squares, this is in the important area where you want these two to be the same value. So to make this simple for demonstration purposes, I'm just going to change these to 1 centimetre each. That means that my grid lines will be measured 1 centimetre across and 1 centimetre wide. I kept all the other options ticked, but that's just to ensure that the objects that I then insert on my page will snap to the grid. This section here refers to how often you want Word to show the grid line. Now, for some strange reason, the default is set at 2. So this would mean that my grid lines would appear every 2 centimetres, but I want them to appear every 1. So I'm going to use these arrows here just to select 1. Then I'm going to click OK. So I've now changed my grid to squares. But as you can see, we've still got this problem over on the right and at the bottom where there's only half a square or 3/4 of a square. But I want to make sure I have a full square so I know exactly where the centre of my page is. So I'm just going to zoom in. And what I'm now going to do is I'm going to use my ruler at the top here. If you can't see your ruler, go up to View and go along to Ruler and make sure that that's checked. Place the cursor between the white section of your ruler and the grey section where it will turn into a double-ended arrow. Then just click and then just drag it over until you see it snap to the next square. And then go down to the bottom and again over to the left here with the ruler. Place your cursor to where it turns to a double-ended arrow. Click and then just drag down until you see the bottom of that next square. So now I've got a complete square at the bottom and complete squares at the side. Now, the trouble with this is that my margin on the right is now narrower than the margin on my left. So now we have to correct the margins. So if we go out to the Layout tab again, go over to Margins, click on the drop down and go down to Custom Margins. Now in this dialog box it's quite simple. You've got your top margin, bottom, left and right. Now you can leave the top one as it is and the bottom one if you're not too worried about the top and bottom margins. But the left and right ones are quite important because that does mean that you will centre your grid. So what we need to do is do a little bit of maths and add up the left margin to the right margin and divide it by 2. So if we add 2.54 to 1.45, we get 3.99. If we then divide that by 2, we'll get 1.995. So if we put in here 1.995 and here 1.995 and press OK, we have now perfectly centred our grid. Once you've centered your grid, this will enable you to go up to things like the Insert tab and along to the Shapes icon. Click on the drop down. And now if we want to insert a square, we just easily click and drag, and you can see it's snapping into place as we click and drag. And then again, if we go up to a line, just draw a line, you can see again that this line is now snapping into place. The great thing about this is even the circles will snap into place, giving you that perfect circle. And again, what's so flexible about this is that you don't have to keep going through your document if you're making up text boxes or graphics. You don't have to keep checking they're in alignment. So again, if you want to insert a text box, again, a text box will do exactly the same. We'll just click into place and then you can write your text. And then if you want to go ahead and center that text, go to the Home tab and click on this icon here. Now don't forget, this grid won't print, this is just a guide. Now you can get rid of it by going up to your Layout tab, along to Alignment, and go and uncheck the View Gridline setting. Now I've actually set up a shortcut on my computer, so I can just hit the Command or Control G button and my grid lines will appear, and again if I hit the same buttons they will disappear. So if you want to add a shortcut key as well, for this particular version of Word, I'll tell you how to do the other version in a second. So go up to Tools at the top here and go all the way down to Customise Keyboard. Then this dialog box will appear here. So go down to View, and then you should down here have View Gridlines. So click on View Gridlines, and then you can see I've entered Command plus G. So when I press those two keys, the grid lines will appear or disappear. Once you've put in your own command, all you need to do is select this area and just hit the keys that you want to become your shortcut, and then just click OK. Now, if you're another version of Word or PC version, if you go to your File, then go all the way down to the bottom, there'll be an Options element, an Options tab, go to that, and then it will bring up a dialog box that says Word Options. Go down to Customise ribbon, and then in the Customise Keyboard section, go to Categories, and go all the way down to Layout tab. And once you're in the Layout tab, under the right hand side it says Commands, go all the way down to the bottom, and it should say View Gridlines. Click on View Gridlines and do exactly the same thing. Enter your keyboard shortcut and then press Assign. So I hope that's helped you today. If it has, please subscribe and have a great day.